Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop, Virginia. I'm Bettina Lawton, your host, and tonight we are doing an interesting but different show. We're not doing politics tonight. Tonight starts off National Estate Planning Awareness Week, and as many of my regular viewers know, that's what I do professionally as an attorney. And one of the issues that you have to deal with as you start thinking about estate planning is what happens if you become unable to make your own decisions and take care of yourself. And one of the unfortunate realities is that as we get older, many of us will lose our mental sharpness. And so tonight we're going to talk about that. There's a fabulous conference that's going to be going on Veterans Day, and we have some of the folks who organized it with us tonight, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Alzheimer's and caregiving and all kinds of great information so that people will understand what's involved, what you can do. And then if you're really interested in more information, you can hike on over to Alexandria on November 11th. It's a federal holiday, so you won't be working, and so you can go on over and get even more information. So let me introduce you to the actual experts. I have to my very farthest left, Pat Williams. Pat is a certified senior advisor. She is a founder of GraceFul Care Home Companion Care. And we're going to be talking about what all that is exactly. And then immediately to my left is Catherine Cole. Kathy is a generic care manager, geriatric care manager. Could be generic, but it's really geriatric care manager. And you are the director of Elderlink, and we're also going to find out what that all is about. So let's start with you, Pat. What is GraceFul Care? Why did you found it? What do you do for it?
All right. GraceFul Care is a group of people that love seniors and love to help them. And we're coming in with GraceFul Care, we're coming in as companions as opposed to nurses and nurses' aides. So about 20 years ago, I fell in love with the whole field and loved working with seniors, especially those with Alzheimer's, to tell you the truth. And I started gathering my friends as they retired early and friends of my friends and said, when you're ready, come and help me if you love seniors and you want to help us help them in their homes. So what we're doing is going to people's residences, wherever they are, at home, or if they're in an assisted living facility, and providing them a little extra love and attention and creativity, especially when their family members can't be there with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, Kathy, what, first of all, is a geriatric care manager? Tell me what that is, because I've heard about them, but I really have always thought they were sort of a rare species. Every time I've tried to find one, I've always had difficulty finding one. And then I want you to tell me what Elderlink is.
A geriatric care manager goes into a person's home and helps them navigate really the issues of aging. A geriatric care manager knows the services that are available in their community, their costs, has an understanding of the geriatric field, the situations that people find themselves in, medical issues, functional issues, the things that happen to a person as they get older, and can make an assessment and determine with the family, with the older adult, a good course of action for them.
So what is your background to make those kinds of assessments?
Typically, a person could be a social worker, a nurse, someone with an education in gerontology.
Okay. So then what is Elderlink?
Elderlink is a public-private partnership. It was established in about 1989, so we're about 20 years old, 25 years old, between the Inova Health System, the Fairfax Area Agency on Aging, and the Alzheimer's Association, the National Capital Area chapter. And it was put together really in recognition of the fact that people in Fairfax County needed help navigating the aging network, the aging system, that people didn't always know what to do or where to go and what was out there for them. So
what is this, because I've heard about area agencies on aging. What exactly are those?
They are organizations that have been authorized by the Older Americans Act. So when you hear that Congress is considering the Older Americans Act, it's a federal act that provides support for these organizations in every region of the country. There is one everywhere where everyone lives.
So are these like county-based agencies?
They can be county-based, they can be regional, they can be nonprofit organizations, they can be included in part of a county government, as the one in Fairfax is. It can be a standalone nonprofit, but they are designated and authorized as area agencies on aging.
And sometimes when someone's looking for help in another part of the country, that's a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Say, look up the area agency on aging in that region where your parents live, and start there, see what services are provided.
So how would somebody find that if they're not, I mean, if I were in another part of the country and I looked under like the county or city government, if they're a standalone nonprofit, are they all just called area agency? No. Okay.
No, they're not. But the way to do that is to go to eldercare.gov.
Oh.
www.eldercare.gov, and put in your zip code or your city and hit search, and up it will come.
I had no idea there was such a thing.
Yes.
Eldercare.gov. All right. And hopefully that works better than the healthcare.gov appears to be working, since it's not working at all from what I'm reading.
Well, we won't go there, but it has been functioning for a good number of years with success.
Okay, and it's zip code based, so that gets you...
Zip code, county, city. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay, and then what does the Inova Health System have to do with aging? Why is that part of this private partnership?
Inova has a concern for all of its jurisdictions, the populations that they serve. They do community service. There is a huge portion of Inova that is dedicated to community support, and Elderlink is one of those.
Okay. All right, well then let's talk about this consortium, and I'm going to hold up the little, hopefully they'll see it. See, it's right there. Caregiving Journey. This is the brochure for the November 11th conference over at the First Baptist Church of Alexandria. So what's the history of this? How long has this been going on? What's the goal?
This conference was started 27 years ago. You mentioned that in the introduction, Bettina. And it is a magnificent conference. It's an all-day conference. It runs from 8:30 to 3:30 on this Veterans Day holiday. And it was designed originally for family caregivers. If I have someone in my family who has dementia, then I could go, and perhaps if the person with dementia has early stage dementia, that person could come as well. But it's geared toward family caregivers to provide them education, what's the latest research, what kind of support do they have for behavior issues that they might be challenged with. It's the whole spectrum, and we know pretty well what people are looking for, what kind of support they need. And recently, we found that a number of professional caregivers have also become interested in coming to the conference to keep themselves abreast of what's new. And so, and then we even have arranged the last few years for them to receive CEU, continuing education credits, from George Mason University. So anyone, professional caregiver, could receive 5 contact hours of credit. The conference is designed to educate and to also to provide a kind of a support right there at the conference, because we see people at round tables. And if I'm sitting next to Kathy and she's a family caregiver and I'm a family caregiver, we might share some tips and some ideas that are stimulated by the conference. We also have arranged for a number of county resources and vendors to be there at the conference. They're at the far ends of the room, and then during the breaks and during lunch, which is provided for free, people can go and speak with these various support services and see what might be helpful for them.
What kind of, when you say vendors and support services, I mean, I mean, I've been very fortunate in some respects that I've never had to actually deal with anybody in my family with dementia or Alzheimer's or those kinds of things. What kind of support services and vendors are at your conference?
There are some home health care agencies that come and they have the information about the services they provide. There are insurance companies, long-term care insurance companies that are there. There are real estate agents that can help with moving and downsizing. There are county services from the different jurisdictions that are participating in the consortium. It really is a full range of what's out there for caregivers to support them.
But when you mention the long-term care people, if somebody has dementia, can they actually get long-term care insurance? Isn't it too late?
Pretty much.
That's what I thought.
But there are caregivers there who are maybe younger and may be in need of long-term care insurance. Or it's information that can be provided for their children. But it is good information.
Well, and I think what I've seen in the work that I do is one of the things that will prompt people to decide to look into these kinds of issues or to get their financial or estate plans in shape is when they have had to deal with somebody who wasn't prepared, who maybe didn't get the long-term care, and now you're trying to deal with what do we do? And that can be a big motivator for people to say, I'm not going to leave this mess for my kids or for my siblings to take care of me when I get older, and get it all fixed up.
We're trying to show the representative organizations at various stages, people running support groups for early stage, to home companion or home health agencies, to assisted living facilities that specialize in memory care.
And they will be there also.
And are those becoming more prevalent? I remember years ago it was very hard to find places that, or if you found them, they had waiting lists that would take people who had dementia.
No, I think that most assisted living facilities are aware that there is that population that needs assistance. There are some standalone assisted living that really targets the dementia population, and they are designed to be able to help those people manipulate their own environment in the best, maintaining as much independence as someone can at that point. And then there are assisted living that will have a memory unit attached to them so that people can age in place, whether it's in, you think about aging in place in a home, but in this sense, aging in place in a facility.
In a facility. All right, so all those people will be there, so if you don't really know what you're doing, the conference is a good place to go. Absolutely. You've got all those resources there. Yes. All right, well, we are going to be going to break, and when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about the conference. We're going to talk a little bit more about dementia, and how is it, am I demented because I can't find my car keys? I don't know, but we'll find out when we come back.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Where's your uncle?
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Sam's. No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal.
E, emailing Social Security information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice, we'll allow it. All right, Ed.
What are those?
Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time!
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Oh, what have we got here? Sometimes you feel tired. You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs. Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air. And most importantly, come and see me for twice-yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice-yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. A message from the veterinary members of the American Animal Hospital Association.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Bettina Lawton, and tonight we are talking about caregiving and dementia and making sure that you know what your options are, so that if you or someone that you love starts to have some of these difficulties, you don't end up thinking, oh my heavens, I have no idea what I'm doing or where to go. So we're going to give you some of that information, and I want to tell you some more about this conference that's coming up on November 11th. As I said earlier, it is on Veterans Day, and you have to do your reservations by this November 1st. And you can call the number. It's 703-359-4440 for some information. It's very inexpensive to go. And I mean really inexpensive. I'm not supposed to on public television say the price, but let's just say you could take your best friend out to lunch and pay more for that than going to this conference. So do go. It'll be terrific. So we're coming back to Pat and Kathy. I want to talk about what dementia is. When we went to the break, I sort of facetiously said, if I can't find my car keys, do I need to be worried? Am I now in dementia? How, people joke about it, saying like when I look at my one son and I call him my other son's name and, oh my gosh, it's really going, or you can't get that word. And people have heard so much about dementia, folks wandering away. It happened in Reston just a week or two ago with a fellow who sort of drove down to Starbucks to get his cup of coffee and didn't come back. And it took them a while to find him. And he just didn't know. So what's the beginning stages of dementia? How do you know that it isn't just you didn't get enough sleep and you can't remember where you put your car keys?
Do you want that one, or do you want me to take it?
We can share it.
Tag team on this. I think it's when you start to realize that it's interfering with your ability to function normally. Usually, dementia will interfere with language, with memory, with visuals, spatial perceptions, and judgment, enough to interfere with your ability to function normally.
And I didn't realize you said the spatial, it interferes with your spatial understandings.
There could
what
be
does
some
that mean?
visual and spatial
I never heard that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, Pat?
There are a lot of causes for some of those symptoms that Kathy mentioned. And it may, because one of those happens to you, but you may not have Alzheimer's. You may have some other medical issue going on. Quite often, someone with an infection will have delirium. Will have someone with taking a combination of medicines that aren't appropriate. It can trigger something. There can be a lot of other reasons why people have confusion or memory loss. Other symptoms of dementia could be not being able to remember to take care of your personal care. It can be becoming disoriented, like the man in Reston who drove off and wasn't found till the next day when he ran out of gas.
That's so sad.
And it could be, you could notice it sometimes in inability to pay the bills that you always used to pay. You might look at those numbers and not know what to do with them anymore. You talked about going downstairs to get something and not remembering what you went downstairs for. I'm happy when my daughter says that happens to her, because it means we're both okay so far. But if you get downstairs and you can't remember what you got there for, and then you can't remember what you went down there for. I mean, it's more than just a simple forgetting. If I forget your name, and Bettina is not a common name. And if I can't remember it, but I know that I can't remember it, and the next day I think of it, it isn't gone. It's just not on the tip of my tongue. So
dementia doesn't just happen. It's a gradual process, and I think that's what's so confusing for people. That you want, when you have a disease, you want it to hit you, and you know what it is, and it's definitive, and you can deal with it. But dementia is very gradual. If there was a sudden change in cognitive function, then you're going to look at a medical reason. You're going to look at something else to say that, let's rule that out. And in fact, if you're experiencing any of the things that Pat has described, you're going to want to check them out and make sure that there's not another cause. And oftentimes dementia is ruled out by eliminating other factors, other conditions that might be possible. And some of the things that she was describing are often more advanced dementia. It's not, maybe one of the first things that a family member would notice would be that the bills aren't getting paid, or that a person is spending a lot of time organizing their office or dealing with the mail. Just little things like that. And it just builds.
And is dementia the kind of thing, if it's that gradual, because sometimes I think people say, boy, I went home to visit my parents, and they just didn't seem right. It's like they couldn't quite put their hands on it.
But that's someone who has just gone home to visit them after not seeing them for a while. So they're not there to experience all of those little gradual changes. And in some ways that's good, and in some ways that's awkward. It's a little difficult, because then you may have to deal with something more immediately. But when you live with someone, especially a spouse, you're in a marriage, you're used to accommodating each other, and so you can almost finish their sentences. So it's even might creep up a little more slowly on you what you're dealing with, because that's the way you've always functioned. And if someone is a more dominant personality, the other person tends to let that person be dominant. So that when it gets to the point where you're starting to question their judgment, then it's harder to bucket and to make decisions and to make some choices that the other person may not be very happy with.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the issues that I think a lot of people have. I hear it with folks, and maybe this fella in Reston, do you now say, I got to take the car keys away? And that, friends of mine have said, are just horrible conversations, because their parents inevitably feel that their independence is being taken away, and the kids are looking at it as, I want you to be safe, but the older person is sort of looking at this as it's a diminishment.
Absolutely, because when you take away the keys, you take away the keys to the kingdom, actually, and especially in this area. Not being able to drive is a very big deal. A very big deal. And sometimes you just may have to take the car keys away. But you try to appeal to the person first in terms of practicality. Can your insurance handle this? Can you handle the emotional impact if you've caused an accident?
Right. And
that's when someone's still logical. If you can then work with them in a little bit later stage where where logic doesn't work, the logic is gone, then there are other techniques. Perhaps you call the doctor before the next doctor's visit and say, my husband has had 3 fender benders, would you please tell him, because he'll listen to you, that he's not permitted to drive anymore. Sometimes you can disable the car, or take the car away, or say it's in the shop. So, and then the person who's looking for the car eventually will forget it. But for a while, they may be asking about it repeatedly. But it's another technique to keep that person and the neighborhood and all the children in the neighborhood safe.
Are there definite phases of dementia where you, you mentioned, I think, Pat, you called it early stage dementia. So I'm assuming there must be a later stage dementia.
There is.
And so are there medically recognized, you're early stage, you're sort of moderate, and now you're really on the other side?
And if you go to the Alzheimer's website, they will lay out those stages for us, or for you to look at. But there is a preclinical phase that is just coming into practice to diagnose dementia. And then you move into the phase where you can actually see some diminishment in functional ability or judgment or cognitive ability, memory. And then there's also testing for protein. And these are all dementia, the diagnosis of dementia and the way it's being treated, it's all in process, it's in progress. It's every day is a new day in the research field. And one of the things we will talk about at the conference is the latest research. But I lost my train of thought.
Oh my gosh.
You must have
dementia. You were going to say something. Yes, I could tell you were getting ready.
Kathy mentioned research, and I think it's important to say that there is research going on all over the world to try and find out what causes dementia, what causes Alzheimer's, how to slow it down, how to stop it. And of course, we don't know any of those things yet, but we've looked at so many possibilities. We've looked at aluminum cans and aluminum cookware for a while. That was the big thing. That's been disproven. We've looked at diet. You know, maybe if you just have blueberries and the antioxidant foods, that'll keep you from getting dementia. We've looked at now there's a new test with peanut butter. If you
there's a peanut butter test. I'm liking this test so far.
So if you cover your right nostril and you hold a spoonful of peanut butter under the left nostril of someone, and they can't smell peanut butter, then they might be someone who's a possible dementia patient in the future.
Is this a scientific test?
See, I told you we're looking at everything.
There's so much out there.
There's so much going on. Right here in George Mason, there's study going on. There's study in every institution in the country. And the Alzheimer's Association has spent about $300 million in research already, and they're doing clinical trials. In fact, if you have dementia, you could go to alz.org, the Alzheimer's Association website, and request that you be part of a clinical trial. So it's all important research.
There's also mild cognitive impairment, which may or may not progress into dementia or the full-blown dementia. So that too is a process, and you may not know whether it's going to develop into full-blown dementia, but there is also a condition called mild cognitive impairment, and the George Mason study that she referenced is actually exploring that.
Okay, and is that what this preclinical dementia stage is, or is that something different?
It's something different, and I would refer to the medical experts on the definition of that.
Of that one. All right, so we've got bunches of different stages, and we've got some innovative, shall we say, research that's out there. That truly does sound bizarre. Peanut butter sniffing. Tell me if I have dementia. It just sounds a little bizarre to me, but okay. You know, because it is, with the number of seniors we have to get a handle on this, and so we really need to do this. So.
Yes, we do.
So we are going to be back after the break with more information for you.
Too many women get hit by their boyfriends and husbands. Too many women are pressured into having unprotected sex. Half of the people in the world living with AIDS are women. It doesn't have to be this way. Together, we can change this reality. Let's strive for a world free of violence.
At Volunteers of America, we don't just give kids a way to stay off the streets. We give them the tools they need to reach their full potential. We don't just help the elderly receive needed care. We help them live life to the fullest. We don't just provide food for homeless individuals and families. We provide job training and placement so they can buy groceries. Volunteers of America is a national organization that for over 100 years has provided programs and services that allow people to overcome their challenges to become vital members of their community. At Volunteers of America, we don't just help people, we help people help themselves. Find out how you can support the programs that are working in your community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-5555 0089.
Drivers face all kinds of distractions.
Guys, stop playing. No. 127 consecutive.
Before your wireless phone becomes one of them, stop. Drive safely. Keep your phone in easy reach and dial sensibly. In bad weather or traffic, call later and use a hands-free device. Remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm Bettina Lawton, your host, and tonight we are talking, what was it? We were talking dementia. We were talking about dementia and how it's not really forgetfulness. It's more than that. And I have with me Pat Williams and I have with me Kathy Cole, and they are both people who work in the area with people who have dementia, as well as just regular senior type folks. But we're talking about dementia in general, and there's a conference coming up on November 11th in Alexandria that is a fabulous resource for people who are involved in this. So I want to back up just a second because we got a question in from our audience during the break about genetic links. So is there any evidence in this research, I know not the peanut butter research, but of the other types of research that says yes there is, no there isn't, maybe there is? Do you need to be more attentive to this issue if someone in your family has dementia or Alzheimer's?
I think for everyone who has a family member with dementia, it's always going to come up, is that going to happen to me?
Yes.
And I don't know how to, there's no way around that. It's going to happen. Not that it's going to happen to you, but you're going to think that way.
Right.
So yes, I think the research is showing that there are some genetic markers. There's a test for protein. There are brain scans that can be done. But at that point, the damage may already be done.
Okay.
So I'm going to defer to the medical experts. And we will have a neurologist there at the conference.
Okay, and so I was just going to ask you, what kind of doctor should somebody consult with if they think that they are getting into dementia? It's not, they're not sure, but they're concerned. They're concerned either because of themselves or because of a relative or what have you. I
would first go to your primary care physician and rule out any other cause for the problems that you're experiencing. Once that has been done, you're going to talk to your primary care physician about seeing a neurologist for some cognitive testing and see what's going on.
Now, I had a client at one point who had a geriatrician doctor. Are those are different than neurologists, those?
They are. Those are primary care physicians who have a specialty or a special interest in gerontology.
Okay, so but they're primary care?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand what that distinction was. So it's the neurologist. Now, can any neurologist do this work, or is there sort of a subspecialty that if you want a neurologist to be looking specifically at dementia? Because there are regular sort of neurological damage that you would see one for. Is there actually a specialty for dementia within the neurological area?
I don't know if there's an actual specialty, but I know that neurologists have an interest in memory disorders. And so when you go to a neurology practice, you would say what your problem is. And they're going, just like when you go to an orthopedist and you have a back issue, you're going to see the orthopedist who specializes in back issues or neck issues. You're going to see a neurologist that specializes in memory disorders.
Okay.
And a way to find that is by going to a memory clinic or a memory center, and many of the major hospitals in the area have that, including Inova.
Oh, I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yes.
So what do they do at a memory center or clinic? What is that?
Well, go ahead.
I'm talking. Well, really, it's a group of doctors who have come together to work with people who have memory loss. So there could be neurologists, psychologists, primary care physicians, psychiatrists. Then often the memory centers will have a social service element and a testing element as well.
One of our speakers at the conference, Dr. James Bixell, is representing the Inova Memory Care Center. I have a friend who said to me, my wife is concerned that she's forgetting. I don't think there's anything wrong, but she's worried because her mother had Alzheimer's. And so I connected him with Dr. Bixel's assistant, Julie, and she arranged for them to have an appointment. And so she's going to go through some testing there at the Inova Memory Care Center.
We often take our clients, we suggest that they have some cognitive testing and see a neurologist. And that puts their mind at ease or gives the family more of a definitive diagnosis, if there can be, of what they need to deal with.
Another thing that's coming up that's helpful for the community is that on November 17th and 18th, there is the Alzheimer's Foundation conducts nationwide memory testing. It's actually on the 18th, and we're doing it at the Herndon Senior Center on the 17th. From 10 to 12, we'll be doing memory testing, and anyone can call the Herndon Senior Center and make an appointment. It's 15 minutes is all it takes. And unless they have a lot of questions. But we have a waiting room with lots of information about Alzheimer's and someone to talk to about the disease. And then confidential in separate rooms. Confidential testing is conducted. Just simple memory screening for memory and for spatial ability to recall and to draw something spatially. You don't have to count backward by sevens. We don't do that. We don't get that challenging. But simple testing and remembering something that's been told to you after an intervening period. And so it's very simple. And then people are given a little letter at the end of the testing that says, you passed the test fine, you got all right, or there were some issues and you might want to follow up with, again, the progression of seeing your primary care physician, and they could take this letter with them.
So this is at the Herndon Senior Center, so do you have to be a certain age to participate in these memory
Not at
tests?
all, not at all. And in fact, people can look online at the Alzheimer's Foundation website, and I don't know exactly, I think it's alzheimersfoundation.org, and find the closest one to them, because again, it's all over the nation. There are other centers in Northern Virginia besides the Herndon Senior Center, if that's not convenient.
Oh, excellent to know. If we can all just remember November 17th from 10 to 12 at the Herndon Senior Center.
Well, that's very good.
Yeah, well, I wrote it down. I wrote it down, Pat, so that I wouldn't
And
forget.
that's one of the accommodations that we ask people to do, is write things down.
Write things down, absolutely. So if I go and now I go to Inova because my guy, or woman doctor says, I don't know, and I don't know who to send you to. I can now go to this memory clinic. Do I have to be referred to the memory clinic at Inova? Or I can just call up and say, I'm concerned and can I come over for an appointment and get an appointment?
Either way. I mean, really, your insurance is going to dictate that, whether you need a referral or not.
Okay, so I go over there and I do the testing, and they come back and they say, you have dementia or you have Alzheimer's, which is, I understand this, is a certain type of dementia. So dementia is the bigger category, and then Alzheimer's is within the dementia category.
Right.
So I have Alzheimer's. What happens next? What am I supposed to do?
Well, if you truly don't know, you have not made a plan, you haven't talked to your family, then I think that's the time when you would call Elderlink and ask for maybe either a caregiver consultation with your family, or you ask us to come in and do an assessment. And when we come into the home, we're going to look at many different things. We're going to look at what social supports are there for you, what you can do for yourself, what you need help doing, some medical history. We're going to do the mini mental that everybody hears about. There are certain questions that we're going to ask to determine your score, so to speak, on what you can do, what you can remember and what you can't. And then we're going to talk to you about what you think of yourself in 10 years or 1 year or 6 months, depending upon how critical this is. We're going to talk to your family about what they can do and can't do, and we're going to come to a decision on an action plan. And knowing the options for care, the costs of care, that we're going to help you decide on. We're going to come up with a pretty decent plan as you move towards this or move into the future, supporting you and supporting the family with guidance and decision making.
Okay.
It's really a very collaborative effort.
It is.
Yeah.
Early on, you may want to be part of a support group that's provided by the Alzheimer's Association that brings you together with other people who have just been diagnosed and want all the information and want support and want to know that they're not all alone with this diagnosis. As it progresses a bit and we get into more of a mid-stage, and someone is still home with a loved one, one of the issues we're going to talk about at the conference is providing some assistance at home, some home care or some respite care for the caregiver, so that the person with dementia has someone hopefully who's fun and creative and can spend some time with him or with her while the family member goes shopping or takes a break or goes to a class or something that person would like to do. There's also respite available when someone, a family member needs to go away and leave the family member with Alzheimer's at home. And could be respite for someone to stay with that person 24 hours for a long weekend or for a week. And so there'll be this kind of information will be at the conference as well. In addition, we'll have someone talking about daycare which is quite prevalent and wonderfully done in Fairfax County. The county provides what are called adult day health care program in a number of locations, and this is a program where if you are working and your loved one has dementia, that person could go there for the day and have stimulating creative activities, have lunch, and really enjoy the day so much. It happens that people that go then begin to look forward to it and really love it. There's also in Merrifield and moving to Pender area right near the Alzheimer's Association, there's another adult daycare program it's been the Alzheimer's Family Day Center, and it's just changed its name to Insight Memory Care Center. And it, again, just like the county programs, provides wonderful stimulation with music programs and art programs and games and getting the participants to each engage at their own ability. And so they're separated into little groups depending on their interests and their ability, and whatever gives them a reward makes them feel valuable and have a good time at the same time.
And these are all things that we would include on a care plan based on the family's choices and what their needs and what their financial resources are to afford the different things that are out there for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to talk some more about this when we come back, because I think, as I'm listening to this, that this would be very scary if somebody told me that I had dementia. It would certainly scare the heck out of my sons. So stay with us, because we're going to finish this off.
Around the world, 1 out of every 3 women will be beaten or otherwise abused in their lifetime, often by a family member or loved one. A future free from violence. It's all she's ever wished for.
Did you know you have the power to stop children from joining gangs? You can help a father find a job and home for his family. You can assist a woman who can't afford the medicine she needs to live and the home she can't live without. You can choose to make a difference in our community. Support Volunteers of America, and you can help improve the lives of nearly 2 million Americans each year with programs and services that help individuals and families overcome their challenges to become as independent as possible. Support the programs that are working in our community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
For some folks, saving for the future is easy, but for you, it might take a little more effort. Saving for your future is your responsibility, and there's a lot to save for.
I never thought of that.
Like your child's education, perhaps uncovered medical expenses, or just to be sure you can live the way you want when you retire. The time is now to save for tomorrow. Save now or work forever. The choice is yours. Choose to save.
We're back to the Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm Bettina Lawton, your host, and we are continuing to talk about dementia, the conference on November 11th, which will provide just scads and scads of information that you may need if you're concerned about it for yourself, you're concerned about it for someone that you love, or you're one of those folks, as scarce as they may be, who likes to plan ahead for these things. But I want to talk about the folks who don't plan ahead. When we were on the break, I mentioned to you that I'd gotten a call from a friend of mine who said that her dad was acting really erratically and her mom was very concerned. But the dad wasn't cooperative. He is not going to go to the doctors. I mean, you said, Pat, early on in the show, you could call ahead at the next doctor's appointment. Well, they've tried to get him to go to the doctors and he won't go. There's nothing the matter with him and he won't do it. And they're getting at their wits' end because the mother is getting very nervous because he's becoming very erratic. So if you haven't planned ahead, you haven't thought about it before, I mean, what do you advise when people call you and say, here's the situation I'm in, how do I move this ball forward? How do we get off this? Because mom's cracking up over here because dad's making her really, really nervous, and he's just saying everything's fine and we don't need to do anything. What do you do with that?
I think the first thing that you have to understand is that this is all part of the disease, that this person is not acting this way on purpose. That at some level you understand that you are losing control. And so you're going to make every grab to maintain your independence, to maintain the control. And the people that you are going to grab it from or inflict it on are the people that you love the most. And if all things were normal, it wouldn't be like this, but things aren't normal. And it's often hard for families to reverse roles. To take charge when they're not the ones that are typically in charge, that if this gentleman was the one that was the decision maker in the family, then it's often hard. That's that accommodation that I talked about earlier in a marriage. You know, you have a dominant person and person who's less dominant. You kind of let them be the decision maker, and it's very hard to switch roles. It's also very hard for children to take charge of their parents when they have been the children, and the parents have always been capable of making their own decisions. And at some point you have to say to yourself and to your family member that I need you to do this. You're going to do this for me. I care about you. I want to know that everything's okay. If that doesn't work, then you try some of the other options, which would be to contact the doctor, have the doctor arrange for a reason to come in and see them. Maybe it's a prescription refill. Maybe it's a test they could say they didn't follow up on. They want them to follow up on it. You would establish a relationship with the physician so that you can work towards a safe end.
Now, what about adult protective services? Because people are aware of like child protective services. You hear about that, and it's, you know, the government coming in and taking children out of homes. And so when various people have talked to me about adult protective services, they seem to think that that's what that whole process is about, that if they call in the adult protective services, they will lose any ability to control the outcome, and that someone is basically going to take their family member and stick them someplace.
No, this is not a police action. It's very much a collaborative effort. The social worker who comes out is going to do the investigation, but it's going to be done so that it is very quiet and unintrusive. gathering information to support whether there's an allegation of abuse, neglect, without disturbing the whole situation. An adult is considered an adult until the court says they're not. So everyone has the right to make bad decisions, and I hate to announce that, but that's actually true. But you make bad decisions in your life all the time, and you kind of understand the consequences of those decisions. It's when you cannot understand the consequences of those decisions that your decision making becomes suspect. So again, it's not a police action. No one zooms in and removes the person from their home, but works with the older adult, works with the family to come to a safe conclusion.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to add that in my experience, the only time someone can be removed is if they're actually being physically violent. There's been physical harm, and that's the only time that I've seen any action taken. Otherwise, it's a matter of working with the family and finding the resources that will be supportive.
As in any dangerous situation,
right?
The person who is causing that conflict is going to be removed, but not taken into custody. They're going to be removed and worked with that way.
And does it have to be like with this friend of mine? It's, you know, the mother's getting anxious because he's so erratic, but there hasn't been any violence. I mean, do you have to wait? Is this the classic, you got to wait till something bad happens before you can call Adult Protective Services?
Yes and no. There has to be an unsafe situation, but again, you don't have, the person who's reporting doesn't have to prove that. It's not up to them. There just has to be that gut feeling that this is not a good thing. The reporter's identity is protected. No harm, no foul. If it turns out that there is no evidence to support the abuse or neglect, then it all goes away. But if there is, then steps can be taken to rectify the situation. In the case of your mother, she could call, or not your mother, but your friend's mother.
That would be an amazing phone call, considering she died 30 years ago, but okay. That's all right. It's one of the reasons, actually, that I haven't needed to deal with these issues is because my parents
when I'm on the phone, I'm talking to family members, so I'm talking about their mother. But if she does feel that she is in danger, then that is a good enough reason to call.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's an extreme situation, but there are a lot of moderate situations where people are, for example, with Alzheimer's, there's this phase that happens often in the late afternoon called that has to do with people getting more anxious, and it's called sundowning because it happens at sundown. And some of the things that people can look at that time are what are some solutions that would help people calm down and get over their anxiety. And I think this is really common and very important to know. I'd say the most magical solution is music. There's a lot happening with music therapy now, not just general music, but also specific music. What kind of music did I love when I was in my 20s and 30s? Did I love jazz, or did I love Mozart, or did I love folk music? And making that music available to me, because if I'm anxious and I hear this music, I'm going to relax. I might start swaying and dancing. This music is magic. But there are a lot of other things to do when you're looking at what people's history was to help bring them relaxation. Maybe you sing songs together, even if it's children's songs. Maybe you say prayers together, whatever that person still has in their mind. Maybe you look at photographs together. What happens with dementia, sometimes someone gets stuck on an issue and you need to distract them, and you need to so in a way sometimes that we distract our little ones, saying, no, don't do that, let's come over here and have some candy or look at a picture. We do the same thing with our clients in their homes to help them have a comfortable and creative time at home.
It's better not to step into the argument, but to redirect.
Exactly.
And if you knew that someone enjoyed an activity, that would be the activity that you would redirect them to. But in the case of your friend, who maybe encountering that erratic and antagonistic kind of behavior, you might want to say, I understand. You know, I understand. I understand that's how you feel. And I'm sorry about that. So let's talk about this now. And it may be an entirely different subject. You wouldn't contradict them. You wouldn't say, no, we're not going to do that. You would just redirect. And keeping yourself calm, keeping a calm presence, then can kind of de-escalate the situation. But when you're in a relationship, it's often hard to do that.
Very hard to stay.
And so it takes practice and patience. And because you can't do that, you don't fault yourself, but you join a support group, you reach out to the Alzheimer's Association, their 24-hour support line, you call your geriatric case manager for some tips, you attend the conference.
I was going to say, I'm reaching for the conference program to say, are we going to be talking about this?
That's why we invited Melanie Bunn, who's an RN, to talk about managing difficult behaviors and also to talk about helping the family work well together so there's no familiar discord. I have a family where the woman was pampering her husband who had Alzheimer's, but the daughter was angry and saying, Dad, you have to exercise. Dad, you have to drink 6 glasses of water a day. And if you didn't do these things, she would get mad. And then the mother and the daughter were in discord. So how do you get past that? I know work at counseling with them. So Melanie Bunn, RN, is going to be fantastic on those 2 issues. Most of the speakers we get are always nationally known speakers. We're going to have someone from AARP who's coming up from Richmond to talk about advocacy for caregivers of people with dementia. I'm going to mention Dr. James Bixel, and wrapping it up, we're going to have someone you and I both know well, Ron Culberson, who is just finishing his term as the president of the National Speakers Association, and he always speaks about health issues with humor. He's a humorist. So he's coming, we get him there about every couple of years, and this is one year he's here, and he wraps up the whole conference with humor, and everyone leaves feeling great.
And that's essential, because this does sound, it's very difficult.
It can drag you down.
It really can, and that's why I'm looking at this. You've got behavioral issues in dementia with the doctor you mentioned, Bixel, managing difficult behaviors, finding your voice, the patient advocacy, the family dynamics and caregiving just has to be I mean, that's difficult enough in the normal course, right? But living at home when mom can't be left alone, and Kathy, you're going to be speaking there, and then Ron, so it sounds like a fabulous day. I want to give the number again in our last couple of seconds here. 703-359-4440. It is on November 11th. It is at the First Baptist Church of Alexandria. Get your reservation in. It needs to be done by November 1st. So you've got all of this week, and next week you've got some time as well. It looks like a fabulous, fabulous program, and I really thank you for taking time tonight to come and talk to us about this issue.
We had a great time.
It's been a wonderful opportunity.
Well, cool. We'll check on it afterwards.
All right.